Who knew that shrooms and LSD would become a major mental health phenomenon? Microdosing, whether it's psilocybin or LSD, seems to be the new thing everyone's trying. But how much is it really doing? And aside from the trip, what's the impact on your spiritual awakening? In this episode, we talk about what the benefits and limitations of microdosing are on frequency level, and what little-known consequences to watch out for, so if you choose to experiment, you can get the most out of it. And after the discussion, we get to the most important part. The group frequency calibration associated with this episode is where the frequency work happens and where change actually occurs. So definitely listen to that. Without releasing distortion patterns targeted by the GFC, the change you want will be more difficult to attain because you haven't addressed the root of the issue. Hit the like button if you've liked this episode and subscribe to receive more of our latest content. My name is Karen Cheong, and today in Mastering Your World Through Frequencies, we're talking about microdosing.
So today we're going to talk about lots of things that are kind of up in the collective right now. Mm-hmm. And there's kind of two paths that would be easy to discuss here, I think. Like, why are they up in the collective right now? Mm-hmm. And why is this so attractive to people? Mm-hmm. And this being like microdosing. So we're talking about psilocybin, mm-hmm.
Which is
in other common terms called magic mushroom, right?
Yeah, that's how I learned it. That's how I knew it.
And maybe there's maybe people out there are going to say, no, they're two different things. I mean, I don't know, but we're talking about psilocybin.
Yeah.
And at the moment,
and also LSD. They're microdosing with LSD as well.
Yes. I heard that the LSD was really high in the 70s, that mm-hmm. they were dealing with the post-traumatic folk, especially mm-hmm. the Vietnam people.
Yeah, the vets.
Yeah, and they were having huge success. And it was psychology and the psychologists mm-hmm. that were running these research experiments.
Yeah.
But what's happening now, I've seen in a lot of areas, mm-hmm. it's localized now. Mm-hmm. It's not done by a medical expert. Mm-hmm. It's done by people that have done some sort of initiation with some abuela, grandmother mm-hmm. of some lineage somewhere. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't want to put people down. Mm-hmm. That's not what this is intended for. Mm-hmm. But I really want to know, so why do people right now, why are they looking for this? Mm-hmm. And is there any value mm-hmm. to this mm-hmm. when it comes to frequency work?
Yeah. So, microdosing, like you said, is super popular right now. And it's interesting to me to watch the rise of it because I feel like it's a symptom in the sense. So people are feeling more anxious, more disconnected, and they don't feel full, meaning they don't feel fulfilled. They feel kind of empty. There's a promise in our culture of success, right? You're going to work your tail off. You're going to make a lot of money. And when you make a lot of money, you're going to have all these different things. The title, the partner, the car, the house, the kids, the whatever, glorious American dream. And then you're going to be happy because you have all these things. And then people get to that and then, or are getting to it, and then they don't feel like they're happy. They're like, something is missing. And so I feel like microdosing is a way for people to try to connect to something greater. So what they're seeking actually, from my perspective anyway, is connection or a sense of just feeling happier or a sense of trying to feel complete. You know what I mean? They don't know how to get there. They don't know what the path is. So they're like, and in our culture, especially American culture, it's really easy to take something. It's like, have a problem, take a pill. Have something, it's like, whether it's Ozempic for weight loss or whether it's whatever. I mean, like, look at our ads on TV. It's like every second ad is a pharmaceutical on TV. So, so in American culture, there's a lot of like, take a pill to solve your problem. And so microdosing, I think, falls under that cultural like familiarity. It's like, okay, I'm going to ingest this thing. I don't know what it's going to be, but it's a microdose. Yeah. So it's safe, right? Because people have been talking about it. They talk about the health benefits. I'm not making light, okay? Because I do feel like it can help people. Because here's the thing. A lot of people who take the shrooms, okay, I'm just going to say that, the microdose of the shrooms, because it's easier for me to say than to say the psilocybin or whatever it's called. So what happens is, and I've heard this a lot from different people, is they do feel it's still it's a psychedelic. And the purpose of it is a heart opener. So a lot of people start to feel that that heart opening, the connection to the earth, the beauty of things. They feel this incredible love because that exists. It's just that most people have so much distortion, they can't perceive it.
I was just going to ask you, what is the difference between somebody that does have that experience and somebody that doesn't? Because I've met 5 different people that have done it just this week.
Yeah. Wow.
And they've had 5 different experiences.
Yeah.
And one of them does it regularly.
Yeah.
Now, and for what I can see, so she does it with awareness. She does it with purpose. She does it with intent. She understood that she had blocks. She understood that she had resistance. She couldn't understand what that resistance was, why it was there. So this is why she did it. She wasn't looking for the rainbows and that huge, massive feeling of where some people get the love, feel connected.
Yeah.
And so that's what my other friend had. She had the colors were so vibrant and she could hear the plants speaking to her. And, she had all that happen. And then the other friend, when I looked at her, I said to her, "You look tormented. What happened?" That was her experience. She had a kidney infection, a bladder infection. She had a fever. She had none of that. No, during and after.
Oh, good.
And had none of it. None of the happy feelings. Joy feelings. So I was like, wow, you're not going to do that again. And she went, no way.
Yeah.
So what's the difference?
The difference. Okay, so it depends on, now, I'm going to say something that some people might have a problem with, which is, it is a plant. So the plant has a consciousness. It is meant to open you to a different experience. For some people, the opening to the experience is to encounter your darkness. And for some people, it's to encounter that love. It kind of depends on your distortion. So everything has to do with your distortions. Okay, it always comes back to this. Even if you do something like microdosing, which is something which is, plant derived, it's controlled, it is a microdose, but there's still a psychedelic effect. Or whether you're doing a more extreme version of that, which would be something like ayahuasca, which is like full on in. Either way, when you're using plants, which are ceremonial, which are very specific in their purpose in order to, people didn't randomly just take them back in the day. They were meant as ceremony. They were meant for spiritual awakening. They were meant to help you move into a different realm of understanding of self, for example, right? Yeah. That's how they typically were used. And that is still their function, So whether or not, however you want to talk about it and whatever you're seeking when you're doing it, that's really what they're there for. So in terms of the whole mushroom thing, you will see either light or dark or possibly both, because I've spoken to people who in the same microdose experienced both in a really intense and uncomfortable, non-pleasurable way. You will see both. So I think a lot of people are seeking the pleasure because they want that love, they want the connection, and then they're not prepared for what it is they encounter if they have the darkness. Yeah. And so all of those things, I just want to frame in terms of a frequency work context. The plants themselves are not meant for you to consume regularly. I think a lot of people will take them, like they'll microdose regularly. They'll take it like every week or whatever as like a mental health thing, or they'll take it to release resistance like your friend did or whatever it is. But really their intention is to help you see and then catalyze into a different direction. They're really not meant to be used like systemically, like as a crutch or consistently like that. That's not really what their purpose is. Yeah. So it's for you to see, okay, well, if you have the darkness and the light in your experience, to see that you embody both. Yeah. And can you be okay with that extreme, that love and then the like extreme darkness that can happen for some people, or for your friend who had just the torment. The challenge with that, man, is when you have darkness like that, that's amplifying and stuff in the lineage that needs to be cleared and possession and like things trying to come in when the person's out of their body. It's like gnarly, in terms of like what their after effect is,
I was just going to ask you about that. So, because this is kind of critical, I think, for lots of people that are doing this work. And I think it's also quite a collective fear for people as well that have spent a lot of time clearing their distortions and being present in the body. Yeah. Now they're curious because it's in the collective. Everybody's talking about it.
Yeah.
Can I do that? And should I do that?
Yeah.
And how do we, if you're curious enough and you want to do it, how do we stay in the body? How do we manage that process? Because as you say, there still might be stuff in the lineage that's going to come in. And are we ready for that? You know, from a frequency perspective, what do we say to those people?
Yeah. So what I would say is if you are a person who has struggled with coming into your body, microdosing is probably not that awesome for you from a frequency work perspective. Because when you journey like that, you leave your body.
Yeah.
Right? Now, what I would also say is, depending on the facilitator, they don't always know how to bring you back into the 0 point of this space-time dimension. I have seen people literally lose their minds because they do not know where they are. So now they're like caught between realms. They're experiencing different things at the same time. They don't know what's happening to them. It's terrifying. So if you're somebody who has a challenge with that, or if you're already very sensitive and you're aware of different things, this likely is not amazing for you because you've already worked so hard to come back into your center. You're sensitive to so much. First of all, you don't really need it.
Yeah.
And secondly, it can destabilize people, okay? Because again, you're journeying. You're not here anymore. You are in other realms. So that I would say right off the bat. So if that's you, I mean, if you really feel called to it, I'm never going to say don't do it because, of course, this is your journey. But please be aware that there is an extraordinarily high risk. The second thing is for those of you who are sensitive. Okay, so I have not done microdosing, so I don't know. But I did an ayahuasca trip once just to see what it was like. I freaking hated it. Okay, so it was the weirdest thing. So first of all, I'm not saying this is my experience is everyone's experience. Okay? So please know I'm just sharing from my experience. So for me, when I took it, I felt physically bad the whole time. I mean, there is a purge, right? There is something called la purga when you do ayahuasca, which is to purge the stuff. So I did that. It felt terrible. Then it kind of like, I could feel myself lifting out of my body and I didn't like it. Like I was like, oh, I'm being pulled in a way that I don't want to be pulled out. Okay. And it wasn't a control thing because I can journey. Like sitting here without anything, I can journey without any of that. But I was like, I don't know what I'm being pulled into and I don't like it. And the other thing is my abilities were like dulled in a way. So meaning what I could feel, I was like, this is limiting me. And I don't also know what I'm being pulled into. And I can't tell because I don't have my usual range, let's say.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is not good. Okay. So for me, it wasn't great. And then I felt like crap for like 3 weeks after that. And I went to go see my NSA practitioner and she touched my neck. She's like, what did you do over the weekend? She's like, because there's all this toxicity in your body. I'm like, yeah. So I did this thing just to see what it was like. Wasn't a good idea for me. And please know that I know that for some people, ayahuasca is really helpful for them, right?
Yeah.
And Chris did it once, and for him, that was amazing because it connected to things that he wasn't able to before, and he did it once. He did a whole dieta. It was a really sacred thing for him, and he gained a lot from it. So I'm not saying it doesn't have its place, but for me personally, being someone who tends to be more expansive, all that sort of stuff, it wasn't for me.
Yeah.
So the thing, I think, is to be aware of who you are.
Yes.
Before you even start down the path.
Yeah.
I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah. And maybe ask yourself why.
Yes. Like, why do I want to have this experience?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why is this so important? You know, or why is this so attractive?
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. And I think it's really attractive. And for those of you out there who aren't feelers, like you and I tend to feel, okay? But there are people, like Chris is one of them. He's like, I don't feel. So I don't really get to experience what you experience, Karen. Like, I don't know what that feels like. And I feel like doing this will allow me to experience that.
Yeah.
And that's fair enough, right?
And maybe it does.
Yeah.
Maybe it does. I mean, I've met like one lady that did it and had that beautiful experience. She would never, ever have felt that before.
Exactly.
For her, that's the first time she got what I had been talking about.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's available to you, I would say to her. It's there. No, nothing. She couldn't feel anything.
Yeah.
After she had this microdose, she understood exactly what I was talking about.
Isn't that funny? Yeah.
But the interesting part of that too is a week, later, she's back in her body in her normal life, and it's sad for her. Because she doesn't feel it now.
Yeah. So it's like there's grief, you know? And it's funny because what I will say is The amazing thing about frequency work is you can get to those places where you feel that love, where you feel that expansion, and you feel that it's enough, but you do it.
Yeah.
So meaning you've cleared enough your distortion, your vibration gets high enough that you can experience it. Now, I have just said that Chris doesn't feel, but as he's cleared over his distortions, he can get to this place where he doesn't know what it is, but his heart field just goes, and he's like weeping because he can feel this tremendous infinite love. Does he need to understand? Does he need to have a mystical experience? No, in order to have that sensation. So my point is that I think microdosing can be really helpful as a tool, especially if you're like your friend, who was just like, I don't know what that feels like. Yeah. And I would like to experience that.
Yeah, it's kind of in training.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, okay, that's what the possibility is. But the thing I think with microdosing is that you start to use it as a crutch because it's not like you are doing it to you. The plant and you are doing it. But what happens when you take away the plant?
Yeah.
And so my feeling, just being the person that I am, is I'd like to be able to access that state without taking anything, right? And I have no problem with ingesting. So like, it doesn't, you know what I mean? Like if that's your thing, great. But my thing is like, but the freedom of it is like, well, if I'm clear enough to experience those things and I don't need that plant, to me, then that, you know what I mean? It's a kind of a liberation in a way.
Yeah. Because I've understood as well with the ayahuasca that originally ayahuasca was never to be taken by the person.
Yeah.
It was always the shaman that took the journey for the person on behalf of the person.
Yeah.
When did it change and suddenly become,
the
person takes it? And of course, he was always prepared from a young age to be ready for plant medicine.
Yeah. And to take the journey and to go into that realm of overlapping dreams and to interpret and to be, and have the strength to know who he still was when he came out. That he, you know what I mean? Because usually it was a he.
Yeah.
To be in service in that way. And I feel like most people who take ayahuasca, honest to God, are not prepared.
Yeah.
They're not prepared.
They haven't faced the distortions like the shaman would have had to. From the very young age, he would have had to have looked into the darkness or light, dark.
Exactly.
Okay, so what we would say to people, like from a frequency perspective, is if you are eventually going to use this, what would you say?
So what I would suggest is first, like I said, assess who you are and see if it's something that you really feel like you want to do if you're somebody who's floaty. Okay. The second thing is to ask, why is it that I feel like I need to experience this? And examine, right? Be aware of your distortion, be aware of who you are, ask those questions. I'm not saying it's necessarily bad, but just be aware. The third thing is, if you're somebody who takes it or wants to take it regularly, to feel happier, more centered, more less like stuck in whatever you're feeling, to feel less heavy or depressed, ask yourself if you want to have that kind of relationship where it kind of becomes a crutch.
Yeah.
And to know that you can do this on your own, meaning a lot of that stuff can be resolved by releasing your distortions and coming into your center. Does it take more awareness? Yes. Does it take more discipline? Yes. And when you do it, it's yours. From the, when you do it from the frequency work standpoint, because you're like, you get the satisfaction of being like, I actually had someone to say this to me. I could feel myself going into a tailspin, but I used my tools and I managed to get myself out. And she said, that felt amazing to me. Now, that is hers. It's her victory. And she knows now, I can do it. I don't need anyone else. I don't need Karen. I don't need a substance. I don't need anybody. I need me. And I can do it. And that is really valuable in itself because it creates a kind of strengthening in the person that I feel like is a very valuable thing because so many of us feel like we can't. We're not powerful enough. We're not worthy of it. We're not, we're not able to in some way. And that's not true. And I feel like if you're not careful and you start to use it to just feel better, then it's not yours anymore. Do you know what I mean? It's like you need the plant to make you feel okay with you.
Yeah, you're running away.
You're running away. Yeah, you're not really addressing the stuff that's causing you to take the plant in the first place. So you have to ask yourself, why the hell am I doing this?
Yeah.
And, and then from there, choose what it is that you want. you know?
And I think you would talk about support tools, right? Let's just say you're a person that has done frequency work or some other equivalent where they are in their center, they know who they are, they know where their distortions or weaknesses or whatever you want to call them can creep in.
Yeah.
But they're super, super curious. Because, you know, we're designed that way.
Yeah, for sure.
All your friends are doing it, you know, and you're kind of like, I am kind of curious though.
Yeah.
So you would have a strategy, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
That if that person wants to give it a go because they're curious.
Yeah. So if you're going to give it a go and you would like to have the experience, I would say that it's important to be aware of your distortions before you go in. Okay. So I would suggest, you know, a lot of people will try it on their own. I would really suggest a facilitator because you think you can handle it before you take it. Then you've taken it. And then you have to find your way back, you know, and so that is something that I can't emphasize enough how important that is. So if you're curious and you want to invest in this, there is a consequence if you don't come back into space-time. You can come back. I'm not saying you can't, but just, you know, do it with somebody who knows what the hell they're doing. Yeah. So I would say that. And the other thing is that there's some people who are very scared because there is a point where you feel yourself starting to journey. And as Westerners, it's a scary experience for us because we're not used to it culturally. I mean, it's not like, I don't know, like a lot of native traditions, that is part of their culture. They teach it to their children. The children understand what it is. So they grow up understanding how to journey and come back and to journey and to come back. But we in our culture are not taught this. Yeah. And so I think it's important for you, if you're a little bit afraid of leaving your body and not coming back, and you have a facilitator, my suggestion is to play the centering to the 0 point or ask them to put it on near the end of your journey so you can come back into your 0. Just for you to know that, okay, there's support here, I can find my way back, and you can relax, right? Because, you know, that is a concern. And the other thing is that I would suggest is to be mindful of what your patterns are before and after. So to really watch yourself. Yeah. You know, like, am I in my center? How am I feeling? Like, you know what I mean? To be, it's like any personal growth tool. If you're tracking like how you're doing, then you can use it as a tool. It's meant as a tool. Yes. So use it as a tool. So it's like, okay, how was I before? How was I after? Like, what did I learn? How was I with this? You know, that type of thing. Because now you're using it as a growth tool. So great, use it as a growth tool.
So now that we've come to the end of this discussion, what's the GFC going to be on?
Yeah. So the GFC is going to be on centering. So coming into your center. So whether you plan on microdosing or not, it's going to help you. Yeah. Okay. And so for those of you who would like to come more into your center, whatever you choose to do, then I highly recommend listening to the GFC associated with this episode. And if you know somebody who is microdosing and need help coming into their center, I suggest sharing this with them. We're about to start the Group Frequency Calibration, or GFC, where we actually do the frequency work and change is catalyzed. To get to the GFC, click on the square that'll appear on the right or the link in the description below. It's time to bring in a new experience, a new consciousness, and a new world. Let's rise together.